Hey guys, I'm Nakar Grattagliano, host of Shogun Valley. My guest here today is Paolo Tosolini. He's the founder of Tosolini Production. He is a professional with a passion for business and storytelling with more than 20 years of experience in the tech world. Hey Paolo, how you doing? And welcome to Shogun Valley.
Thank you, Nakar. Greetings from Seattle, Washington. We are 9 hours behind you.
Um, Paolo, let's get right to it. So, when did your journey and your in the tech world start? When did you say yes to technology, and you had that aha moment that was the way to go for you?
Well, I always loved the computers and especially software and multimedia. So I started fairly early, but I have to say that everything came together when in 1992, those years, I really started working with the Windows. Let me backtrack a little bit. I was also selling computer for an IBM reseller at that point, just to make some money while I was doing the university, right? But then I started looking into how I could express my creativity.
For those of you who don't know, Paolo and I actually studied in the same university. Of course, we are from two different generations, but we kind of went to the same university. Therefore, your journey actually as a technologist started in Italy, like you said, around the 90s, and you started selling computers
and then started looking into how we could use multimedia just to design user interfaces. It was very early on. And what happened at that point is that also the internet was, the web was starting out. And I was volunteering at the university in a lab. And then I just came up with some ideas that allowed me to then jump here to the US. I'm just compressing now the history, but essentially, it was just an intuition that I put for free on the internet, and it allowed me to. It attracted attention by certain companies here in the U.S. And they invited me to come over and to present these ideas to a public, and they made me a job offer in 1996. So it was an interesting journey, and then I credit the internet and sharing over the internet of what I knew for my career. And I continue to date to do the same strategy. Whenever I find an intuition or I invent something, I don't keep it for myself, even if it could be counterintuitive to not monetize at the extreme everything that an original thought. But in my opinion, the more you share, the more opportunity you have to learn and also to get your work expanded. So I continue down that path.
You view sharing as a point of strength, not keeping things for yourself. That's a way to connect with other people, to expand and just share it and put it out there. So I know you are very specifically virtual reality, 3D virtual reality. It's your specific line of business just in this moment. Why you became so attracted to this type of reality? What happened? What clicked with this reality?
Well, I'm a visual person, so I always worked on things that move on the screen, video, multimedia. And most recently, I opened my own creative studio, talking about 5-6 years ago. So what do we do? As an agency, we offer three major services. One is development and design of touchscreen solutions for events and trade shows. The second is 3D virtual tours. And the third is virtual reality and augmented reality. All of these services for us belong to the realm of emerging technologies, emerging media. And because we are passionate, the whole team is passionate about utilizing the very latest technologies to express or to help promote products and services, then we are just we just love that space. And I also used to work for Microsoft myself in different capacities. I worked actually twice for Microsoft, and I left and came back and left. And so this experience around large corporations, medium businesses, and then opening my own business, it is something that always attracted me. Having the knowledge of how an enterprise works. And then being able to serve.
Since a young age, you were always attracted. You had this idea rehearsing in your brain that someday you would open a business. Is that correct?
Well, it's hard to. When I was at university, I didn't know what I didn't know. So essentially, when we grow up, the university is preparing us to find a full-time job somewhere. For a bigger corporation. It can be an insurance company, it could be a Microsoft or whatever, right? I didn't belong to that line of thinking, but I wasn't against to work for a bigger corporation. In fact, when I came to the U.S., I worked for a medium-sized corporation. It was beautiful. You wear different hats. You feel like you're part, you're important in this organization because the company is small enough to give you multiple responsibilities, but then also big enough to give you, visibility on everything else that it's doing. Now, when you moved from a medium-sized corporation to a large corporation like Microsoft, then you feel like you're a number. But you're seeing things that the scale of impact that the company has on all over the world. A lot of people use Windows. Billions of people use Windows and Office and so on. It is astonishing. So, but then your role is really like you're a small gear into a big machine.
Paolo, I got my first computer. I think it was 2002 or 2003. So that's when we got the first laptop computer. Obviously, like my family, my relatives were into technology at that point. So it was kind of a new thing for us. I suppose many other people were using it before, but it kind of felt like for most people, this reality was actually just starting, like massively starting, in the sense that, most of us up to 2000, I don't believe we had so many devices. You didn't necessarily have to have one, unless you was in a certain line of business, I believe. So, you went there in these starting years, and it actually was there was this tremendous momentum going on. I believe in '96. Is that correct? And I talk from the point of just understand. I don't understand anything about technology, so
every decade had its own momentum. So I think like in the 80s, it was the starting of the PC. Late 80s. Then the 90s was all about the internet. It started the internet, and then of course, and then the 2000. It's more like at the end of the 2000 is more mobile. So every time has overlapping breakthroughs in technologies, and that's why I think it's fun to live through them and maybe jumping ahead of time where you think there will be the next big wave. But it's not easy because there are so many potential waves that are coming up. I jumped on the wave of augmented virtual reality. We started 3-4 years ago now, but it hasn't materialized yet as big as people predicted, because there is like in every new technology there is.
Well, I have seen what I have seen in this period. For example, I was following, I don't know who it was, some triathlon athlete, and they have all of these. They do this kind of interactive racing through kind of to the game, so that they'll have a TV, one of these smart TV with a camera. So
Hmm.
they'll have a bunch of people that's in their homes and are really running this race either on the treadmill or on these bikes that's connected with a bunch of devices and a sort of camera. And I've seen some cool breakthroughs. You know, now you have all these really immersive
Right.
immersive sort of video games, but that you know that may actually be good for your health. You know, we often think about them as you just sit there and on the couch, but when you have this movement, it can be really good. It can be really productive, especially
Absolutely.
during lockdown. Mm.
Absolutely. And now you can see some stories where people are starting gaining weight because during the lockdown you just eat. But then some other folks, at least on my Facebook feed, they said, "Oh, I bought this Oculus Quest, which is one of the latest devices, and then I started dancing or just playing, and then I lost weight again." So it's an interesting byproduct of virtual reality. Probably not the main one.
So, how do you see in this reality transforming so many industries? The business industry, maybe the cinema industry, the video game industry, and what other industry that are not just obvious? You believe this 3D virtual reality will transform in the next, let's say, 10 years?
Well, it's difficult to predict, 10 years from now. But what I can say is, once think about the iPhone, how it has changed the way we work every day or the way that we operate them. But it took several years from the first cell phone to the iPhone to really make it happen. And I think it will take some time for people to get used to opportunities of using their phone to visualize, for example, a product that they want to purchase online, even materialize it through their phone and say, "Oh, I like this pair of shoes, and let me see it through augmented reality," for example. So definitely, where there is a business interest, where you can make money or you can save money, then those are the verticals, the industry verticals, where these technologies will start to be adopted earlier. For example, I'm talking about augmented reality, and then for the public, if they are not familiar, what is augmented reality is about adding a layer of information on top of what you're seeing on the screen. So, for example, through your phone, through the lenses of your phone, you could point to a building. It could be Miramare Castle, for example. And imagine you're seeing Miramare Castle through the phone, and then automatically now you see a layer of information on top of the castle that says, "Hey, this was from Maximilian, this was the year that was built." And as you pointed to a restaurant, automatically the phone understands that's a restaurant because of geolocation, because of a variety of other inputs. And it tells you when the restaurant will be open, the ratings, and so on. So that is what augmented reality is. Now, what we can say is that today, to really experience augmented reality, you have to wear some sort of glasses, because you can hold your phone all day long like this, but it's not practical, right? Your one hand is busy holding the phone. So the day that we can see through some glasses, that we have our hands free, and then you see all this layer of information right there appearing in context of what you're seeing, that is the time when AR, augmented reality, will take off. And we know it's not today, but it's coming. And I bet that when Facebook through Oculus or Apple will come up, or Google will come up with their glasses, things will start taking off.
So
But the day that will
that
happen,
gradually, you know, people are getting more familiar with this product, with this reality, with this possibility, with this chance. It has an extra layer of information. It's fully immersive, and so as people get more accustomed to this way of just actually, you know, just doing things, and as there is some breakthrough in technology, such as the glasses from Google or other technologies, you think you believe it will take off. Now, I'm just going to make a
Yeah.
question. It's an obvious one, but what do you think about Elon Musk once it's talking about this Neuralink and how they? I don't know if you heard how he's gonna actually like play music in our brains, like directly in our brains, and all of this technology. What do you think about? And
Well, I don't know enough about that particular topic, but I think there is a distinction between virtual reality and augmented reality. So in augmented reality, you add a layer of information, but you're still very conscious of where you are, because I can look around and I can see I'm in my office here, my home office. In virtual reality, you replace what you're seeing with something that is generated by a computer. So you need to put something in front of your eyes. So it's usually a headset. And now you're seeing what the computer is generating for you. And as you move your head, of course, the image moves around. In that case, you can project yourself in a world, in a fantastic world or whatever, and all your senses are being taken over because the image tricks your brain and thinks that you are somewhere else,
all right.
someplace else,
So,
right?
as an Italian, born in Italy, you moving to United States of America. You know, how was just that journey? Was it easy for you? Did you face some challenges? Were there some things that like on in the sense of lifestyle, etc., that were shocking from you? Do you have some preferences when you look at Italy compared to the United States? And how was that transaction?
So it's a good point. So I came over here 25 years ago. Next year will be 25 years. So once you move to a different country, and you probably a lot of people may experience that when visiting is one thing. When you visit, you are on vacation, or you only get the best of a country, and then you experience the country in a certain way. But when you live in somewhere in another place, you get the goods and the bads of being in that place, and you don't realize them right away. But at one point, you kind of blend your identity, because you are neither Italian anymore, in my case, but neither fully American, right? Because now you are an in-between, your identity is in between two cultures, and you appreciate both cultures, and you also find the flows of those cultures. So in my case, and also I saw in the case of many other immigrants here in Seattle, my friends, it takes 2 years. The first 2 years are very important for you. You can either give up about this experience, or you stay and you don't come back. So in this first 2 years, you get all your nostalgia. I want to go back home. I miss the original Parmesan, the mozzarella di bufala. All of this stuff will bubble up the first 2 years, and after that, you either embrace the change, or you just say, I cannot live without my friends, my relatives, my parents, and you go back. It doesn't
There's
mean that that's
years of incorporation. You have to kind of look around, and you have these, like you said, these conflicting, whatever, identity. And was it easy for you? Maybe because I mean, you had a connection point, which was technology. Was it easy for you to find kind of your tribe or your community, or just really settle in Seattle? How is Seattle? Is it a welcoming city? Do you feel it like a welcoming city, a place you can live in?
Well, let me tell you, I came to Seattle because I was hired by a company in Seattle to come and work here. So I have to say that as an immigrant, high-tech immigrant, I think we had it fairly easy. I cannot compare my experience with something of like 100 years ago, when the early Italians came over here. It's a completely different situation. We came over here because we were hired. We had a paycheck.
You came
Of course,
as a highly professional worker in actually a field that was boosting in that particular year, in those particular years, and in that
right.
particular area. So it was kind of, that's not a some grandfather that came 100 years ago from Italy. You're just going there and just getting there, you know, maybe not qualified with no education and facing all of these
Right.
barriers in that historical time, or it's nothing like, for example, we hear about the news, some of these, you know, Mexicans that are moving to the border. So it cannot be compared. So you came in with, you know, with fair advantage, and your transaction because of that was, I believe, if I understand well, you know, was fairly more. It was easier for you to compare to other.
Yes, but I have to say that while it may be easier for me to come over, it is very competitive to stay here and to emerge. It's not nothing is a free meal here, so you have to earn it. And even if we came here with, you know, the possibility to work here and to benefit from the American
Say
dream.
we, so you actually went there with your wife because you're married,
Yes.
you have children, so you came there with your wife from Italy.
Right. I came over first, and then I told my wife, let's go, who is here, by the way, and then working next to me here. And then, and she said, okay, I'm coming over for a couple of years. Let's see how America looks like. So we are 25 years later, we are still here, although she wants to go back and then, you know, eventually. But once you are in this country, then you live the goods and the bads of living in America. So, for example, from the work perspective, I think it's a fantastic place to be. If you have ideas, if you have willingness to sacrifice time and work hard and so on, I believe that this country offers a lot. The flaws then are basic stuff like healthcare or education or other things that we give for granted in Italy. And then when you come over here, you find that if you go to a hospital.
Do you feel that pressure, like especially the first years, and also and now, do you feel that pressure, like you have that pressure on your back that you, and how do you I mean, how do you deal with this pressure? Does it fuel you? Does it propel you forward? Not having healthcare, not having all of this.
Oh, the pressure. Well, at the
Like,
beginning, it's very
you feel
exciting.
pressed, like, you know, I have to work, I have to just, you know.
In America, so you can be hired quickly, and then you can be fired quickly. It means that you can find a job here. The company that sponsors your visa, that's how it works. Huh? They give you a chance because they think that they don't have anybody else that can do a particular job as well as you do. That's why they go through the trouble of getting somebody from another country. And so I was one of them, right? Because I specialized on a particular topic. It was multimedia over the internet. I was ahead of that company that built the tool that I was using. It's like it's like you, for example, you use Adobe Photoshop super well, and then Adobe is hiring you because you are the best one to use it in that way. So I used this particular software, and I was anticipating. I was ahead of the company itself. So they said, "Oh, let's hire him. So let's get some good use of him." Now, once you're into this organization, you have to keep proving that you can bring value, because everything is about the money in a corporation at the end of the day. So you have to contribute to the bottom line, which is bringing revenue or help the company bring value. And then companies go through cycles. They can make mistakes. They can, they can expand. In
What
our
about
case,
your lifestyle? I mean, just I suppose you must be working a lot, but you don't work all the time. How is your lifetime, and what are some of the routines you incorporate in your day? Running a business, etc. What keeps you going? What keeps you healthy in terms of relationship, etc. And do you feel that there's some differences between the way people relate here in Italy in terms of human contact and versus America? So
Good question. I am going to answer in this way. It depends what you do. If you have a job that is in a company, or that you go at 9 o'clock and you finish at 5, and you don't have responsibilities, then it's one kind of lifestyle. In high tech, you never work 40 hours. You work always longer time. They expect, because the high tech, the industry in general, high tech pays more than other industries. They expect that you invest a lot of your time to just to focus on the company. In my case, I work for myself, which is even worse in a certain aspects, because I don't know if it's a weekend anymore, or any day is a working day, right?
You like your experience as when you got there, working for these technology companies, starting from a mid-sized company, then moving to bigger companies such as Microsoft. They kind of helped you just shape your mind to just enter in this culture, and just had you gone there and started a business immediately, do you feel you could sustain it?
So here's a little story. So after I came to the US and I got my green card, I left my previous company. I started with my wife in the year 2000 a mini startup where we rented villas in Italy. That was our way to stay connected with our country. So we could travel to Italy, we could take photos of different places, something that Expedia does today, or Airbnb, just to give you an example. It was before Airbnb, 10 years before Airbnb. And I sold that business. And then I went to Microsoft because it all depends on the market, the demand, and so on. So I would say, if you want to start your own business, there is never a bad time or a good time necessarily, right? Because you could do it whenever you think you have an idea, or whenever you feel you have something that people may want to purchase, may want your service.
So now, as a whole, in this time and period, we went through this lockdown, to this COVID-19, and it was shocking. Here in Italy, you saw the images, we all saw them, of the military tracks. And so, how did you live that moment? What were some of the thoughts that came to your mind? Did you ever expected something like this to happen? And were you impacted somehow because of your line of business, etc.?
Yes. So the virus has impacted us all in a way or the other. So our lifestyle has changed. So we work from home, right? I used to have I always work from home in general as a consultant, but I used to visit my clients more often. We also had a co-working space, and we don't have it anymore. But aside that, working from home for somebody like me, or an information worker in general, somebody in technology, is not a big deal. So everybody who works for Microsoft, Amazon, which are headquartered here in Seattle, by the way, they didn't got impacted much. They already knew how to work remotely, and now they are essentially just working from home, and they like it. A lot of people just like it, and it works. What impacted me is my client, because I depend on events. We produce services for events. Events don't happen anymore. And so my business has been, in a certain way, disrupted by the virus. So there are a couple of approaches that you can think about this. You can either hope that things will get better and just do more of the same, or you can reinvent yourself really quickly. And this is what I decided to do. So as soon as I understood that a certain line of business, certain services, I could not sell them anymore, I just started pivoting to do something that is more online, studying new skills, just pitching.
How do you handle the pressure in general of handling this? Do you train? Do you practice meditation? How do you release pressure and stay fit, etc.? Because you work a lot in front of the computer, so how do you keep your body functioning while maintaining these activities? And, is something you use?
Well, during the lockdown, we didn't have a lockdown to the extent of what we had happen in Italy, where you couldn't get out of the home. So we are luckily we have a home here. We have a backyard. We can walk around the block. So that was helpful, and you can always do a run around the block, and then just to keep your mental health. And then we are close to the mountains, so if you really wanted, you can go for a hike or a bicycle ride and so on. So from that perspective, we didn't feel too much of a hit. It's a huge inconvenience, of course, because everything around you is closed. All the shops are closed. You cannot see your friends because then you're afraid that somebody can catch it and so on. From the work perspective, it's a matter. There is so much uncertainty now. You don't know, even if you have a full-time job, there is no security. First of all, and then if you
want to just drop a question in here. Do you feel that because you are an entrepreneur, you kind of have developed some more resilience in comparison to other people in terms of the way you perceive uncertainty?
Uncertainty is something that every person has to accept to a certain degree, right? If you you wouldn't want to go and be an entrepreneur if you don't accept the fact that you don't know if you're going to eat tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. This is and being in technology, there is still even more pressure. And why is more pressure? Because if I sell services to other technology company like I'm doing, I need to be ahead of the curve. It's a constant race because my clients, for example, are Microsoft, Deloitte, Accenture. They're all technology companies. So being a consultant to them, it means that I have to offer value that they don't have internally. So they're looking at people like me and many others for help in certain areas. And that means that I'm constantly need to be ahead of them and invest time, invest money,
And
invest in education.
How do you get those, just I believe you have a team of people, how do you go through recruiting them and just building up this team? Because you have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to, first of all, you have to build a team, and then you have to actually keep the team together. And so how was that for you?
It's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, and it has a lot of mistakes during the journey. So usually, I started alone. I was passionate about designing these touchscreen solutions. And this idea came after a failure that I had working for another agency before, where I believed that I was hired there to do to work on other interactions that didn't sell. So from the ashes of that failure, I decided to start my company in a different direction. And then you realize that you don't have the capabilities to do everything just by yourself. And it means that, for example, if I know how to do one aspect of a business, I need other people to be excellent. For example, I don't know how to design certain things, but I know how to program. I need to find a designer.
So you need to delegate work.
Delegating is
finding the
Yes.
right people and avoiding it's micromanaging. Is that correct?
There is a tendency, especially coming from Italy, to do everything ourselves. So, for example, because we know that we can do a little bit of everything, but if we really want to scale, we cannot be, we cannot have pretend to be good at everything that we do. So we have to pick and choose our battles. And I try to pick and choose things that I really love to do. And then for other areas that either I don't like, but I know they're essential, or I don't have the skill sets, I hire people. And the model that I'm following is I don't hire full-time because it would be a prohibitive cost. I hire freelancers. So my agency is a virtual agency. It's me, and every time I find a new project, I hire the right people for that project. Then these people are free again to go back to their own
So, Paolo, I
jobs.
know you did some, well, after the pandemic, that there was sort of this explosion in the United States of America. It was triggered by the death of George Floyd, and then we all saw what happened actually worldwide, and the stats were going down, and funding of police, and all of these. And I know that you actually played a little role in these, in that moment. So, what is it you did, and how did you use your technology and your know-how to give your contribution in that particular moment?
So, as you know, in America, there is a lot of unrest these days, especially triggered by police brutality. So it's almost like it has always been there, racism and police brutality. But recent events have triggered anger in people. So and they started manifesting on the streets and looting shops. So just not things that we were used to. In Seattle, in particular, there a group of protesters started occupying a part of the city, a small part of the city, but and they declared that they were an autonomous part of, where they didn't want to have police and so on. It's an interesting social experiment. It lasted around a month, and I felt that I wanted to see myself if that area was safe or what was about. Because I live a little bit outside of the center, and I wasn't really involved. So one day I went there, and I decided to use technology to document what was going on in that area. And I used a 360-degree camera that takes panoramic photos. And I created some sort of virtual tour of this protest zone. And then I decided, because those photos were interesting, I sent them to a newsletter, an online magazine called GeekWire, and they decided to publish it. And it just went viral because of a couple of things. Because the topic was very relevant, and the way that I presented the story was novel, using 360-degree photos. And it was just my contribution using technology to a cause, like educating people about what that cause, or just witnessing what was happening in Seattle.
So there was this protest going on, probably fueled by, I think it must be Black Lives Matter movement, I don't know about. You kind of felt this sense of curiosity. You had this technology there, so you said, well, I'm going to go down there and have a look. And then you started, it lasted about a month, you did your work, and then you kind of said, well, that looks pretty good, and you just sent it out there, and the innovation really was this particular technology that you used, and so that was kind of okay, that was kind of interesting, was innovative, etc.
Well,
And
because
do you feel as a, maybe because you have an outside standpoint of view, so you can see America both as an Italian, as an immigrant, and may have a different perspective than a regular American. Do you feel that living there is, do you perceive this racism as you observe that society? Have you ever witnessed things that you thought were just a little bit off? Like, yeah, I don't live there, so.
Sorry, is your question about how do I perceive the local, what's going on these days?
Do you ever feel like there is this, actually there is this energy of racism and racism going on, and did you ever witness some events that you just looked and said, well, that's not fair, or
Well,
somehow?
let's put it this way. If you do, as a white immigrant from Europe, I'm probably in a privileged position because I never experienced what a black kid might experience when they go to school, right? So it's hard for me to feel what they are doing, how difficult of a life they have, because in my area, I don't see many black people. I live in an area next to Microsoft campus, where most of the people work for Amazon or Microsoft. They're mostly well educated and so on. So when this protest happens, it really bubbles up everything that has been evident for years and years and years. But maybe we didn't notice, or it wasn't that, or I never looked for that information because it wasn't for me something that it involved my life. But as you learn more about the movement and how bad of a situation it is, then you start thinking, okay, so this country is not perfect at all. It has huge social issues that they need to be fixed.
So it's a little bit of a bubble. You are kind of in this technology world. Most of the people that are around you, there's not really many people of color around that area. If there is, all of them are just involved in this technology. So you're kind of this area, and you have kind of this, and kind of all of these other reality that's there. You just because maybe you're a focused professional, it's just not there in your life, and it's not immediate. Maybe for a white person, and especially if you're running all of these, to even go and look for this information, and then it all emerges when there is a scandal that's triggered, and then you start to think about, and you say, well, that's actually some considerations to make, and it just you go really find this information when it's right there in your face, because otherwise you just in this just doing your job, and it's just not there, and I get it.
There is no doubt that there are certain areas where there are real bubbles. The Seattle area is a fairly wealthy area, just because of all these technology companies. If you go, all the coasts in general are fairly wealthy. As soon as you drive half an hour from a city, you find the real America.
Is there a racial, obvious, evident correlation between wealthy and racial? I mean, the people that live there, does that have a racial connotation in terms of ethnicity?
It's not automatic. I don't think it is, because a lot of the people who are here are also immigrants, right? So I would say
you have people from India, you may have, or other engineers, or all kind of people. Really.
Absolutely. So I would say that at least from what I'm observing, Seattle is one of the most progressive cities. Okay. There is a very high level of acceptance of diversity. So it's not it's a very good city to live in my opinion, for families or for. However, there is a disparity in between the rich and the poor, and this disparity is very evident when you are poor, when you cannot afford to live when you cannot pay your rent, for example, because prices of the homes are going up, because everybody wants to come to Seattle to work in high tech or Silicon Valley for that matter, prices of homes raise. And if you're a teacher or if you're somebody who works in a restaurant, you start needing to work 1, 2, or 3 jobs just to pay your rent. In that regard, there is a disparity, and then you can
I can perceive also disparity in terms of things that and services that we value. I think it was Joe Rogan. I don't know if you watched his podcast. Probably you know him if you live in that area. And I mean, he's Joe Rogan, man. It's a super famous podcast. But if you don't watch it, please watch it. And he was talking about. I think there was one guest on his show, and it was really talking about services. Actually, looking at what the coronavirus was and what was the backbone of that economy in terms of profession that were really valuable and they kept society running, and then in terms of what we actually valorize as what professional we value more financially, you know, and is that fair, and is that okay? Because then you look at the profession that runs society, such as teachers and doctors, etc., and just pay them less than other people in general, especially in this American context. So they were just talking. They were just talking about this, and I thought that was interesting.
Right. No, I agree. Naka, unfortunately, I have to prepare for the next call. And
well, Paolo, I want to say thank you for those that will watch this. That was Paolo Tosolini. I would like to extend an invite that we may proceed this conversation, why not in a second episode, in some other moments. And so, Paolo, thank you very much. And just wish you a good time and good luck.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for making this happen.